Starfield PC requirements continue to be a bit of a question mark, and it's now a little bit more confusing because of something that AMD put out there. We already sort of addressed some of the concerns about the lack of DLSS support and the AMD push for FSR and the exclusive contract with AMD. Many of the PC users out there are not happy about that and what that means for performance if they happen to have an NVIDIA GPU wanting to harness the deep learning technology, instead having to suffice for FSR instead, which many people who support DLSS see that as inferior. I don't really have a dog in that fight. I am looking into beefing up a PC to enjoy Starfield at the greatest performance possible, but I am growing concerned that that's not going to be a reality. That's going to be something that's very difficult to achieve. I'm going to look at an article in a second from Xfire about PC gamers are sort of crying foul over the Starfield PC requirements. But first I want to talk about the assumption about 60 FPS. As soon as the 30 FPS revelation came to light, many people started saying, well, if you want performance, play on PC, which is probably one of the worst things you could say to somebody who got a Series X and was hoping for high FPS performance games and next-gen power, and saying, well, if you want performance, you should play on PC. If you go back and look at the Project Scarlet and the Xbox Series X marketing, nobody should expect to need a PC to hit 60 FPS. But in the wake of that, many people were saying, it's going to be fine, just play on a PC and you'll get 60 FPS. And I remember saying at the time, we don't have a guarantee of that. If you look at the Lex Friedman interview with Todd Howard, he's okay with 30 FPS as long as they give the player tons of freedom and the simulation's running well. 30 FPS is fine in their book, which sort of tells me it's not a priority. And if it's not a priority in a conversation that was just about game design in general, then there might not be a whole lot of ways to, finagle and optimize and change settings to successfully get consistent 60 FPS on your PC, regardless of how strong it is. A good example of a game right now that is struggling with performance, no matter how strong your rig is Jedi Survivor. People with very strong PCs are saying they just can't get consistent performance. The hitches, the snags, they're all happening. And they obviously are happening on console as well. The only people who seemingly don't notice it play at quality, and they're playing at a lower frame rate and it's less noticeable, but those hitches and snags are still there. So it stands to reason that if that wasn't a priority in when they built Starfield from the ground up, they were okay with 30 FPS, then there could be a significant number of things running in the game making 60 FPS less obtainable regardless of how strong your PC is. So I've not been convinced that I'm going to be able to sort of buy my way to 60 FPS because I find the game to be compelling. I really want to play it. I really want to enjoy it. And I am one of the people that just has that as a standard at this point. I can't play games at 30. So I want to look at this article from Xfire because I am curious what's going on here. Many people are saying this is just advertisement, but let's look at it and see exactly what it says. PC gamers are crying foul over the Starfield PC requirements. The purposeful ambiguity regarding the PC requirements for Starfield and what they're for is leaving a lot of room for speculation. I do find it strange that we're, 2 months out from the release of the game. I'm recording this in July of 2023. And we don't have hard data about PC requirements and specs. That seems a little bit strange, especially for a game that was touted as, hey, it's going to land on Xbox and PC at the same time. Right now, PC users should be able to confidently know what they need. I'm looking at buying a PC, right? When I get back from my vacation, I'd like to start shopping for one so that I can get it, probably middle or late August and be ready to go. And I would like to know what I should get, right? What should I buy? So let's take a look at what's happening here. One name that has captured the imaginations and caused countless conversation in recent weeks is Bethesda Softworks' first new game in decades, Starfield. The highly anticipated title, scheduled to launch in the not-so-distant future, has been sending ripples throughout the industry with fans and experts alike. Starfield, Bethesda's much-awaited title, scheduled for release in the not-so-distant future, has already sent ripples through the industry for fans. Oh, wow, they actually copied and pasted. Whoops. Accidentally said the same thing. I was like, didn't I just read that? A black cat just crossed my path twice. It's a glitch in the Matrix. So this is about Starfield and how it's capturing everybody's attention. It's capturing attention so much, they had to write that twice, all right? After Bethesda's controversial decision to cap Starfield's FPS on Xbox Series S and X, the debacle now revolves around the PC system requirements needed to experience the game in its full glory. Courtesy of AMD, which is now Starfield's exclusive PC partner, we now have the detailed specs for 1080p, 1440p, and 4K resolution targets. However, as many have pointed out, it might be more of a marketing spectacle than practical information. So this is obviously a concern that is now extending out from the concern of AMD being the exclusive PC partner. That doesn't really bode well for PC users to have a game that is being touted by a company that keeps talking about more games for everyone and more choice for everyone, limiting that choice with one of your first big debut titles. We obviously don't really want to talk about Redfall, so let's talk about Starfield. And Starfield is kind of coming out of the gate a little wonky already for those who don't own an Xbox or would prefer to play on their PC because they've invested so much money into it. So let's see what it says. According to AMD's promotion, 1080p gaming, which it labels as heroic, will need an AMD Ryzen 5 7600 CPU paired with an AMD Radeon RX 7600 GPU. So that's 1080p. That's going to be your base level experience. Doesn't say anything about frame rate, okay? For the epic 1440p gaming experience, and when it talked about the 1440p gaming experience, the image said for high FPS. It doesn't say 60, it just says high. And this is for the epic. So this is 1440. They recommend the Ryzen 7 7700X CPU coupled with the Radeon RX 6800 series GPU. Now, I looked up this GPU and Google told me it was comparable to like an NVIDIA 3800, okay? GX, I think. Or no, yeah, GX RX, one of those. 3800. Or 3080, I'm sorry, was comparable to the 6800. So that's a pretty strong card, okay? Funny enough, when you look at the recommended specs that we could already see, they had the 6800 paired with the 2080, which is odd to have what seems like a stronger Radeon card, which again, I think maybe gives credence to people saying, this seems like you're trying to sell graphics cards. And for the creme de la creme, the legendary 4K, AMD suggests the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D CPU paired with the Radeon RX 7900 XT GPU. So that's a beefy machine for 4K. And that, to me, is not alarming. If you want 4K, you're going to have to swing the bat really, really hard. You're going to have to swing for the fences if you want to have a machine that is that strong. Now, they're saying here, before you start emptying your pockets to equip yourself with these powerhouses, it's worth noting that these processors are relatively new. They certainly aren't bad, but the question is, do you truly need them to play Starfield? If the game runs efficiently, older processors should be more than sufficient, right? This is a concern right now with Starfield that I noted when the PC specifications first came out. I said, you're recommending cards and builds and CPU and GPU that are newer, right? This game's been in development for how long? 8 years? And why did you scope this project out to be so large that we need technology that didn't exist in the middle of the development of the project? Like, what did you do? What decisions did you make? So, as far as performance goes, I find that to be very worrying. I think that's one of the reasons they had to cap it at 30. I think scope creep. I'm smelling the fires of scope creep, okay? We've seen this before with games like Cyberpunk. They just go too big, too broad, and it runs really poorly on weaker systems and the weaker consoles, at least. And I know it ran better on PC, and Cyberpunk fared a little bit better there, but this has all the hallmarks of scope creep. The more I look into and sort of analyze why won't they give us specifications of what is needed, even what they're saying we need, it seems really strong and really recent. More information here. Interestingly, opposite to AMD's not-so-budget-friendly specifications, Bethesda has released a more economical minimum and recommended requirements. The minimum setup includes an AMD Ryzen 5 2600 or Intel Core i7 6800, paired with an AMD Radeon RX 5700 or an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1070. Now, that's this pretty weak system, okay? Now, that's minimum, so I don't know what kind of performance you're going to get. I'm thinking 1080 and 30 maybe, if you're lucky. This game looks big. It looks expansive. Obviously, Anybody playing this game on a system that week is going to be turning all sorts of things down or off. Shadows, texture, detail, volumetric fog, draw distance, all of those things are going to be way, way down, including your resolution down to 1080, and then not anticipating very, very high frame count. People with systems at that level are going to be expecting not the greatest performance, okay? So that's their minimum. Now, the recommended setup, as I said a little bit ago, hopefully my memory was correct here. It includes an AMD Ryzen 5 3600 or an Intel i5 10600 or an AMD Radeon RX 6800 XT or an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080. Okay, so I was right. They have the 2080 here paired with the 6800. Now again, my quick Google search, I'm not a tech guy, but my quick Google search is claiming that this card is more comparable to a 3080. So for some reason they have it paired with the 2080 here. Somebody might get in the comments and tell me, well, actually because of this, and that, and the third, it's actually equal. I don't really get into that. So it does seem weird though at first blush that they're requiring stronger AMD equipment than, the alternative, especially because you're going to be able to tap into FSR, and that should be helping, right? You shouldn't need as strong of equipment, but okay, let's not get into that. These specs, albeit less marketing heavy, still target a high-end player base, possibly leaving a chunk of PC gamers behind. Plus, there's no clarification if these requirements are for 30 or 60 FPS target at 1080, which makes it harder for potential players to gauge their readiness. This is exactly what I was talking about. I want 60. I really want 1440-60. I don't really feel like buying a top-of-the-line rig and playing a game at 1080, okay? 1080-60. That seems ridiculous. That seems about as ridiculous as 1440-30. I believe these are substandard performance numbers. I've continued to say that I think the sweet spot's 1440-60, and if you want 4K 30 with ray tracing, have a ball. I'll play at 1440-60 every day of the week. It looks great on my big screen. It looks great on my monitor. I think that's the sweet spot, okay? You don't have to agree with me. That's just my own personal opinion. And if I spend that kind of money and I do that kind of research and I can't go in equipped with information to know, am I going to get 1440-60 on this rig that I paid for, right? What should I buy? What equipment should I get? Looks like maybe AMD. I don't know if I want to buy a system firmly rooted in AMD just for one game, right? There's different opinions on NVIDIA versus AMD. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if we get more information. While we wait, let's read on. Another significant area of contention is the lack of support for NVIDIA or Intel GPUs in AMD's promotional specifications. Bethesda has been mum about whether the game will support DLSS2 or XESS, only confirming support for AMD's FSR 2.0 so far. However, Modder Pure Dark plans to implement NVIDIA DLSS 3 via a mod, but it seems likely to be behind a Patreon wall, adding another layer of complication to the Starfield PC specs saga. Listen to me. So many people continue to tell me the game will be fine on PC because of the modders. I'm ready to tell you that a lot of people are not going to sit around and wait for modders if the game runs poorly. If they spend a lot of money on their rig, if they invest in a PC, and they're really excited about Starfield, they're not going to sit around on their hands and hope for somebody to add in DLSS or for somebody to patch in something that helps out with 60 FPS, okay? They're going to expect that bare minimum. Like, if I drop that kind of cash, I got to imagine the people that investigate this, they run an MSI afterburner and they're overclocking stuff and they have thermal paste still on their fingers. Those people are not going to put up with bad performance. I also don't think they're going to sit around and wait for mods. Now, we looked at the Fallout 4 sales breakdown, and it was 60%. This was physical in the first week. It was 60% PlayStation 4, and then it broke down from there. The majority was not on PC. So I don't see Starfield doing all that well with the minority on PC and with the lack of information. I'm a willing consumer right now. I want to go into the PC market with cash in hand, ready to buy a machine for this game, and I don't really know what I should get. I mean, I suppose I could go with their recommendations off the image they put out, but it feels like an advertisement. It feels like you're trying to sell hardware. You're not trying to give information to a consumer of the video game. You're trying to sell GPUs. At least that's what it feels like to me. It's clear from the chatter that the gaming community is in two minds about this. Some believe that AMD's requirements are misleading, only designed to sell more hardware. That's what I just said. While others see it as a sign of the game's demanding nature. I think it's a bit of both. if I'm honest. I think it's a bit of both. I'm really, really not confident in this game running well on PC. I'm not. You're going to need a monster rig, and I think that's concerning. It's really concerning for anybody who owns a Series S, because the Series S is significantly weaker with its memory bottleneck. And for somebody with a Series X, that's me, right? I bought the Series X for high-level performance and next-gen, the promise of up to 120 FPS. I don't even want 120. Just give me 60, right? And I'll be good. I've never insisted on 120. But even for me, it's like, well, okay, so is it even going to maintain 30 on the Series X if it's this demanding, if PC specs are this ambiguous? And not just ambiguous, they're seemingly pretty demanding. So even if you argue and you say, oh, this isn't promotion, AMD's not trying to sell, GPUs and CPUs. Okay, well, then this game's incredibly demanding. Which is it? Are they trying to sell hardware, or is this game insanely demanding? Is this game going to be really tough to run at 60 or at high levels of fidelity on a PC? Final paragraph here. So while we're left pondering these system requirements and scratching our heads at the marketing tactics, the wait for Starfield continues. What remains to be seen is whether these demanding requirements translate into a gaming experience worthy of the investment, both in terms of hardware and emotional anticipation. Until then, we can only wait, watch, and keep our PCs warmed up for what could be an epic journey through the cosmos. That's good writing. Listen, I agree, okay? I agree. Like, we're just going to, I guess, keep our PCs warmed up, or in my case, keep my wallet warmed up. Like, listen, I'm willing to buy top of the line here. I want to get a really good PC, but I'm really concerned that if my priority is performance, I don't have a path forward here. It seems I'm being forced, in quotations here, I'm being forced to go AMD. What if I don't want to? What if I look at the market and say, man, I'd really like to go NVIDIA? We're not talking about whether or not I buy one console or another in order to play a game. We're talking about buying hardware in order to get a good experience. It's very different, and I don't have enough information right now. Hopefully we can get more. It's July. The game will be here in 2 months. What do you think? What are you going to do? These uploads usually roll over into a members-only stream, so if you want to talk to me in the extra content, hit the join button. $5 a month gets you into all that extra content. At the very least, you can hit like and you can hit subscribe so I can see you in the next video.